Nidus Breachcast, the world's first identity management app made exclusively for identity experts and product owners, is available in the iOS App Store now. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nidus Anarchy series. I'm your host Adam, CIO and co-founder of Nidus, and today I want to talk about a major power shift from Bitcoin mining to AI data centers. So for the longest time, the largest power consumption from the computer world has been Bitcoin miners, or just mining in general, just because it's purely a massive power consuming server. They're not just doing little like HTTP calls. These things are just crunching massive data and consuming massive amounts of power. So forever, the last 10 years, I would say, there's been huge data centers spinning up just for Bitcoin miners right next to wherever they can find really cheap energy. Because the energy costs are so massive, they obviously want to have the cheapest energy. So for the longest time, that's that. It's always the biggest power consumption has been Bitcoin miners. What's happening now, though, is AI data centers are spinning up, and they also need massive amounts of powers, just like a Bitcoin mining facility would. So, in combination with a few different things, there's been a huge shift now of these power companies and these data centers moving from Bitcoin mining to AI data centers. A couple reasons. Big reason, the halving of Bitcoin in April, which basically, short version, it makes Bitcoin mining massively more difficult to mine. So therefore you have to have a lot more compute power and time and servers to be able to mine a Bitcoin to get the rewards. So because of that, it takes a lot more energy and you get a lot less reward, which makes it a lot more costly to do. On top of that, Bitcoin mining just in general is just getting more expensive because power is getting more expensive. The servers are super hard to find. I mean, right now, like real legit Bitcoin mining companies, you have to have an in with the mining companies out in China making these miners. And a lot of times you're getting the miners after they've already used them anyway. So you're not even getting the cutting edge stuff. So that's a whole market and a whole problem that you have to deal with. Now, from the power consumption perspective, the AI stuff is just taking off like crazy. As everyone knows, there's, everything is moving to AI faster than Bitcoin mining is becoming a thing. So there's a huge shift. So a couple of different things came out, two different articles. One of them I want to talk about right away was on CNBC about bye Bitcoin, hello AI. Texas miners are building out a 1.2 gigawatt energy facility out in Abilene, Texas, which is, if you want to know where that is it near Houston, Dallas? Is it near Austin? No, it's in the middle of nowhere. So basically really cheap land, and they're going to try to do this thing basically all on as much renewable energy as possible and run some massive fiber lines out there. They're starting out with a 200 megawatt facility to start, and the whole thing should be a 1.2 gigawatt facility in the end. To give you an idea of how much energy 1.2 gigawatts is, that could power almost 1 million homes in America. And from an AI server perspective, that they're having massive AI servers that they're going to be powering, that will power around maybe 100,000 AI servers. So huge power consumption all going into AI. And they're saying it's all going to be done via renewable energy. So what I want to do here is I just want to kind of show you a little bit on the article here that I have from CNBC. We'll kind of go through the points. So Houston-based tech company Lancium and Denver-based Crusoe Energy Systems announced on Thursday morning a multi-billion-dollar deal to build the 200 megawatt facility. That's that part of the larger 1.2 gigawatt build-out. At full capacity, Lancium president says that this will be one of the largest AI data center campuses in the world and leaves Bitcoin mining behind, blah, blah, blah. Lancium president Ali Fenn told CNBC at full capacity, this will be one of the largest AI data center campuses in the world. So they're going big. And obviously in Texas, they're already known as an energy state. Lots of oil and natural gas being mined and drilled down there. But they are saying that they're going to be doing this stuff, and it should be mostly renewable resources. There's another company called Bit Digital. So these guys are out of Iceland, a Bitcoin miner that now derives an estimation of 27% of its revenue from AI. So over the past few years, they've already shut down 27% of their Bitcoin miners to move all that energy and power over to AI. So they're already transitioning. And in June, they entered into an agreement with a customer to supply NVIDIA GPUs over 3 years at a data center in Iceland. In the deal, it's expected to generate $92 million in annual revenue. That's huge just for running servers. That's so much money for so much AI power. It's paying for the general processing units in part by liquidating some of its crypto holdings. So yeah, they're getting rid of their Bitcoin miners and bringing in these AI powered machines because that's where the money's at. 92 million a year in revenue just for powering these servers. The facility in Abilene, the Texas one, is expected to go live in 2025, and it's planning to draw primarily from renewable energy resources. A quote from the president of Lancium: our power orchestration technology is positioned to ensure that mega-scale AI data center campuses can be assets to the grid and not liabilities. So I think what they're talking about is about how they can actually give energy back to the grid because they're generating so much renewable resources. I'll talk about that in a second, is why I don't believe it. Lancium has patented technology that allows it to turn the demand of energy buyers into a sort of dial that can be incrementally turned up or down in as little as 5 seconds. This helps to balance out a power grid that has inherently volatile energy sources like wind and solar power. Okay, there's no way in hell they're going to run this power all from renewable energy sources. It's just not possible. Long story, but for a different company of mine, I actually had to look into building out my own power substation because I needed that much power. And I was in a place that was tons of sunlight all year round. So I was like, oh, we should be looking into solar and renewable. There's lots of wind and we can do maybe the current stuff, whatever, because we need a ton of power. And so I looked into it. And the amount of renewable resources that you would need to generate the power, like for this data center, no way. Never going to happen. So I think that is a bait and switch comment by them to basically keep everybody happy, so they're not thinking they're just burning a bunch of fossil fuels, emitting all this carbon, whatever. So they say they're going to be net positive in the carbon footprint and all that kind of stuff, whatever. There's no way that they're going to be able to power a 1.2 gigawatt data center off renewable resources. Not going to happen. Sorry. The Electronic Power Research Institute estimates that data centers could take up to 9% of the country's total electricity consumption by 2030. So that's 10% almost of all the energy consumed in the country is purely for computer data centers. That's crazy. They're saying that tapping into nuclear energy is seen by many as the answer to meeting that demand, and that I definitely agree with. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman told CNBC last year that he's a big believer in nuclear, especially when it comes to meeting the needs of AI workloads. I don't see a way for us to get there without nuclear, Altman said. I mean, maybe we could get there with solar and storage, but from my vantage point, I feel like this is the most likely and the best way to get there. And he's definitely true. Here's an article from Yahoo Finance that also just came out just a couple days ago. Nuclear plants in high demand as tech firms scrambles to ramp up AI data centers. This is exactly where this is going to go, which is we need more nuclear power. It's the best, safest, cleanest power that we can get for the amount of power that we need. What you'll notice in here is that in this article from Yahoo, it says Wall Street Journal pointed out that tech companies demanding nuclear power for AI data centers would be effectively diverting existing electricity resources and could raise the prices for other customers and hold back emission-cutting goals. So that's the big point here. If you don't go nuclear, is you don't build power plants, meaning you don't bring more power into the grid cleanly and efficiently, then you're going to take the power away from somewhere else. So think about where all the major tech data centers are, right? You got San Francisco, all the West Coast. Who's suffering crazy brownouts and blackouts and power shortages? California. So if you build massive AI data centers in California and you say, hey, I need an extra 100 megawatts of power, you're just going to be taking that 100 megawatts of power away from someone else that needs it. And what's going to happen is very simple: supply and demand. So, okay, Mr. 100 megawatt AI data center, you're going to have to pay a premium for your power because companies and businesses and data centers, depending on what you're using your power for, they charge you more on the kilowatt and all that kind of stuff than a residential. So what's going to happen is they'll pay that premium because it'll be worth it for them, especially if they're making $92 million a year in revenue just from moving over to AI data centers. They'll be able to gladly pay that power. The problem is when they take it away, they're going to be taking away from places like homes and other small businesses and stuff, which is going to say, oh, sorry, we're just going to have to figure out how to power you the whole time. And then their rates are going to go up to be able to supply it. So just by opening more data centers and pulling existing energy off the grid is not the right solution. It's just going to cause power to... You think your electric bill is expensive right now? Have an AI data center power open up right around the corner. Your power bill is going to triple. It's going to be nuts. So yeah, nuclear power, definitely the way to go if you want to have... We are going to have massive AI data centers all over the world. This is a race for who can build the largest data center. That's really what this is. So, and to give you an idea, here's a chart from the same Yahoo Finance article, where it shows the typical data center without an AI demand is showing around 12 kilowatts. That's not a ton, but it's still a lot of power. Now, you'll see there's two different bars here, these blue ones. So we have the data center supporting AI in training phase, and then data center supporting AI in inference phase. So what does that mean? You'll notice the inference is about half of 40 kilowatts versus training, which is 80. So let's talk about inference, because that's the easiest one. Inference is when you use AI. When you go to ChatGPT, when you go to Claude AI, when you go to Meta, whatever, and you're using like, hey, ChatGPT, how do I write this documentation or fill this out for me or do whatever? That's inference. That's when you're saying, hey, do stuff for me, that back and forth. That is way less taxing on the GPUs, and which means it requires less power. That's why you're going to see that. Now, on the training side, in the training phase, this one here, this is the big one. The training is when these massive companies are building these new models. So like when Facebook bought all those H100s and they spent ungodly amounts of money to buy them, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's so much money on just buying the GPUs. But no. The actual training on those things, that's where the real crazy power consumption costs. So they may have spent hundreds of $1 million on these GPUs, but they're spending probably 20, 30, 40, $50 million a month just in power to train on those GPUs. So the training takes so much power because you're maxing the capacity of those GPUs 24/7 for months on end, and all they are doing is just sucking in power. It's like having that real wheel dually thing with a huge crazy diesel exhaust just spewing out black fumes. That's your AI, except it's not spewing out black fumes. It's just consuming so much power. They're crazy workhorses. So that training is 24/7, just completely maxed out. That's why they consume so much more power. So which one's going to be used more? Well, it's not really either or. It's going to be both. Inference is going to be the SaaS solutions that are going to be out there. So all these people that are using AI to do stuff and calling into the APIs and building AI systems, all of that is going to be from the inference side. But the training side is never going to back down because everyone wants bigger models with more tokens. I mean, right now, Facebook's Meta, they're building out that 305 billion token model. That's all from training. So for, I don't know, what, a year, maybe a little less, they just have all these GPUs running at 24/7 at max capacity. That's what they need. And as soon as they're done with that one, do you think they're like, well, we did it. We've trained all the models. No, I guarantee you they probably already started training a whole new one that's going to be even bigger and larger and takes even more. And that's the whole thing of AI, is building these massive systems. They're not going to get smaller and more efficient. They're just going to be bigger, because that's what basically they figured out a long time ago was, wow, AI is cool, but it really doesn't work too well. But if we throw a ton of GPUs and a ton of power and a ton of systems at it and as much data as possible, all of a sudden they get smarter just linearly. The more you put in, the smarter they get. So when you have things like governments and large multi-billion-dollar companies that figure this out and realize that there is a multi-trillion-dollar AI market to go after, and there's a race because whoever's on top wins and everyone else doesn't, you're going to have a ton of massive AI data centers, like these huge gigawatt facilities popping up everywhere. And how are you going to power them? You're going to need nuclear energy. So right now, you're going to see a lot of political debate as to whether or not we even allow nuclear facilities to be built. I know there's going to be a ton of cause heads.
Wait till you meet the cause heads. The what?
Freaking out about this. And not just in our country, all over the world. But I'm telling you right now, whoever approves nuclear power and builds these AI data centers, they're going to be the leaders in the new technical AI revolutionary world. So if we don't do it, someone else is going to do it, and they're going to beat us. Is that justification to do all the things that are necessary? I don't know. I'm not that guy. I'm a tech guy, and from a tech perspective, the answer is yes. I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know. See ya. Nidus has just created the first iOS app made exclusively for identity management professionals. It's called Nidus Breachcast, and you can download it now. It's amazing. We have real-time updates of all the latest breaches that are occurring, CVEs as they come out real-time, really pertaining just to identity management. We have media that's going on this podcast. We're going to be bringing in a lot more others as well. And we even have a complete vendor list of all the identity management vendors and all their products, so you can find out exactly where to download their software, all the documentation. And what's even more awesome is an identity management glossary. All those crazy words and acronyms that we can never remember, they're all listed in there for you. No ads, just pure information to make your life simple.